She's been waking up the nation for over 2 decades. Susanna Reid is funny, feisty, and she wears her heart on her sleeve. All perfect qualities for her role at the helm of ITV's Good Morning Britain.
The whole nation is sorry for your loss and devastated by what happened to Arthur.
I just imagined the pain Arthur would have been in.
Sue Gray's initial findings into the Downing Street parties may have been short, but they heaped more pressure on the Prime Minister. My question was about the Prime Minister. Did the Prime Minister go to the party?
I don't know the answer to your question.
You lost your job because you broke the social distancing rules. Do you think there was one rule for you and one rule for the rest of them?
Susanna is wrapped
fully
in the
clad
warmth
in Ben Shepherd.
of a Ben blanket.
One is tea and one is coffee, because my tastes change throughout the morning. Before I became teetotal, we're a lot more relaxed since I stopped drinking.
Please welcome Susanna Reid. Hello.
How are we all?
It really is a plethora of emotions,
Isn't it?
in a couple of hours every morning, isn't it?
I know. But just behind the scenes, I was looking at I looked like I was doing calendar girls with those marks.
I get the tea coffee thing. I get that.
Yes.
Absolutely understand that.
Right at the beginning of the programme, you want coffee to drive you through, because
Absolutely.
the alarm is set at 3:15, and really you want to drip, don't you?
Yeah.
You know, insert it into your arm with a triple espresso.
How do you
and
do
then
that? 3:15. What time do you go to bed?
sometimes, you know, really sensibly, and sometimes
Really
too late.
not.
Yeah, just sometimes you
I
just
tell you what,
can't.
Susanna,
so
though,
good.
I remember when BBC Breakfast moved to Manchester all those years back. How many train journeys did you do a day just to be with your children?
Yeah, 2. Because, of course, I would go up in the evening before, so I'd get the sort of 7:20 train from London up to Manchester, stay overnight, do BBC Breakfast in the studios there, and then I would get the 10 o'clock train back home to London, so that I would be able to have a nap at home while they were at school, and then when they came home from school, I'd be there, and I could cook them tea, talk about homework, and then hand over to their dad and get the train up
back.
again.
That's a dedication.
Wow.
Yeah, but do you know what? I've always thought I am so lucky that I do a job. I mean, an amazing job I have. You know, being in live television is, I think, it's just the best fun you can have on TV. And it is at a time of day when they're mostly asleep, so they don't really notice that I'm not there. And then as long as I'm there at the end of the day, you know, when they come out of school, that's always been really important to me.
Yeah, and now they're a bit older, of course, as well, Susanna, have they a real sense of what you do and who you are on the telly and the position that you hold in the morning?
Yes, I mean, they don't take it that seriously, Christine, to be fair.
I think they should.
The way you describe it, I think, yes, absolutely. They notice me on TikTok. That's the main thing, because teenagers and I myself am obsessed with TikTok. And so if we have a moment which is on TikTok, that's very noticeable. Otherwise, they're just completely unfazed by it. And I kind of think that's exactly right, you know.
So with all the awful news we've had, you know, over the last couple of years, from COVID and now the terrible situation in Ukraine, how do you deal with that? And do you feel it more, do you think, because you're a mom as well?
Do you know what? I don't think I'm more affected because I'm a mum, because I think we're all...
Just as a human.
Incredibly affected and impacted. What I've noticed is that I'm more affected by some stories than other stories. So, I mean, I just watching that report back there that you ran, if there is a story about a loss of a child, I find that very hard to deal with. But I think, you know, all of us as human beings feel that. That poor little boy.
But how do you get away from that, like when you go home? Because I can't even watch the news at the moment because it affects me so much. I'm doing that, you know, which I shouldn't really, but I don't put it on.
Yeah.
How do you get over that?
Do you know what? I think a lot of people feel like that, and probably a lot of people aren't watching it with their children because they don't want them to be affected by it. I find the main thing that helps me is if I switch off at the end of the day. So I will always have a novel by the bed, a book, a fiction book about something entirely different. And I will switch off the news, because obviously I'm watching news all day, like all of us, and who isn't right now. But as long as I just switch off at a certain time and then get my head into something entirely different, into a novel, into somebody else's world, I find that can really affect my state of mind. I noticed during the pandemic, I had nightmares. I'm sure many of us felt like this. I had nightmares where I was sleeping and in my dreams I was trying to save people's lives and unable to do so. And I think we just had all this bad news seeping into us. All of us felt powerless as to what to do. So now it's about switching off, changing my attention, diverting myself, and then waking up and dealing with it all again in the morning.
But one thing I wanted to ask you is your sons are still living at home.
Yeah.
And they're teenagers.
Yeah.
And so I suppose when you come home, they're there and you are processing all this bad news by setting it aside and getting immersed in other things. Like I cook. I do complicated recipes and read, exactly like you, I read dross, I read froth, I go through books of, you know, I read old colour magazines and look at shoes and stuff like that to break the cycle. But what's going to happen when your sons leave home? You must, you know, they're what, 19, 17 and 16, so it's not long now.
Yeah, 19, 18 and 16, they seem to be growing up sort of exponentially quickly. I think that's what happens when they get to teenagers and all of a sudden, you're right, they'll be gone. They talk to me quite a lot about the news, actually. And one of the things I always tell them, and I think this helps process it for children, is just to make sure that what they're seeing is correct and factually accurate. There's a lot out there, isn't there, especially on social media, which is just rubbish.
Yes.
And so whenever they come to me and say, Mum, this has happened, that's happened, sometimes they'll be updating me, but I'll always say to them, what was the source for that? Are you absolutely sure that that's the case? And sometimes just by sort of investigating a little bit the source of material, it can just help
sort it out,
tone down the panic a little bit. I think
the journalist is always there, Susanna.
Yes.
So International Women's Day, Susanna. I think we all felt really quite proud to be part of the ITV picture that we all took part in it, and. I mean, we're very lucky to have a sisterhood here at daytime particularly, and I know you certainly feel that as well, Susanna. You're surrounded by very strong women here.
What an amazing photograph. By the way, we're not all wearing pink. There was a range of tones.
There was. We're all variations.
And of course, one of the amazing things about that photo is we're all busy working women, aren't we? So it was impossible to get everybody there on exactly the same day. So when people say, you know, how on earth did that come about? Well, by a lot of careful work over 3 days, putting all of that together.
Bit of camera trickery as well.
Yeah, absolutely right. And why not? We can't all be there at the same time on the same day. And I just think it's a wonderful celebration.
I'm going to really treasure that photograph
because
it's just so lovely to see us all together. It's wonderful.
Absolutely right. And it is a sisterhood. I mean, you know, I'm really lucky to work with some incredible women on Good Morning Britain, Ranvir Singh, Charlotte Hawkins, of course, and the amazing Kate Garraway, who I think is one of the inspirational women that a lot of people have looked to. I mean, my goodness, we've all navigated our way through the pandemic, but nobody, you know, with such a tricky home life as Kate, with poor Derek, you know, in the way that he's affected. So she is absolutely incredible. And how she's carried on coming to work and being a great mum and a great partner to her amazing husband.
It's the importance of having good friends when you come to the workplace, though, isn't it?
I really valued coming back to Loose Women during the pandemic. I missed everybody so much, and it was just so terrible working from home.
Yeah, exactly. I can imagine. I was lucky because we carried on working. Yeah. You know, we were in the studio, which was really lucky.
Susanna, an absolute delight, as always. Thank you, on International Women's Day. Thank you so much.